I tend to find myself ending up in the same situation more often than not. It's late into the night, I'm sat on my PC, hitting my monitor with the red 40 stare. I am bored. Most of you can probably agree you've been in this scenario before, and the way that I often remedy this is finding a new game to play. I love finding new weird little games, and there is one thing that I can always rely on to find my next obsession: the Steam Interactive Recommender. This thing is straight up busted. I have found about 10 or so games from it, and almost every time whatever Steam decides to serve up is a certified banger. Some of my favorite games have come from this thing, and so whenever I want something new, I know Steam's always got me. And so I found myself scrolling, trying to decide which of these games would become my next 2-week phase, when Steam showed me this. This is STRAFTAT, a fast-paced 1v1 FPS. I saw this trailer and I was immediately interested, and to top it off, it is free to play. And after sinking a good amount of time into this game, I can say that STRAFTAT is a phenomenal FPS that stands out amongst the sea of dead on arrival live service games and bland battle royales that dominate the market. And here's how. In my mind, FPSs generally fall into two different categories: positional shooters and movement shooters. The difference between them is how the game rewards you for utilizing the movement and combat systems given to you. A positional shooter rewards you for positioning yourself correctly and taking shots at the right moment. This is how most popular FPSs like Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six, and Call of Duty tend to play: position, engage, rotate, repeat. This tracks since most of these games are going for a realistic depiction of combat, so these games reward players who adopt a more tactical playstyle. I know it's really tempting, but you can't just rush B by yourself and expect not to get domed. Movement shooters take a different approach, rewarding you for utilizing both systems simultaneously. You shoot while you're moving. Wow, it's almost like that's why they're called movement shooters. And players who approach this like a positional shooter are going to get absolutely wiped. Games like Ultrakill and Titanfall 2 put a heavy emphasis on movement, and understanding it while intertwining it with the combat system rewards you with an incomparable feeling of satisfaction. STRAFTAT is a movement shooter through and through, obviously inspired by classic games like Quake and Unreal Tournament. STRAFTAT's movement system manages to somehow be both complex but accessible. I think with a few rounds, just about anyone can understand the fundamentals of STRAFTAT's movement and be able to hold their own in a match, but for those willing, the movement system offers a layer of technical depth that, once mastered, puts you streets ahead of the competition. And let me set the record straight. I don't get it. You've been watching my gameplay. You've seen me failing to exit a slide jump, killing my momentum by fumbling a single crouch, having decades to move out of the way, and still getting one-tapped. I'm really not that good at STRAFTAT. I honestly get my ass handed to me in most matches, but you can see how my opponents move. You can tell there's something they know that I don't, and the game rewards them by obliterating me 3-15. I might be a little washed, but as I continue to sink my teeth into this game, I'm slowly piecing together how to maneuver my character, and it is incredibly satisfying. Each time I manage to pin down a new mechanic like the slide jump or wall running or neo jumping, it really feels like an accomplishment. I've continuously built on the skill, and the game rewards you each step of the way. On that same note, the movement isn't just horizontal. Get ready to hear this a lot throughout the video, but STRAFTAT's movement offers a lot of verticality. Being able to launch yourself up slopes, bounce between walls, and being able to completely jump over opponents if you do it right. This verticality gives you more opportunities to escape, because sometimes you're pinned, and in most games, that's it. you're just dead. However, STRAFTAT gives you a smattering of options to get out of that position. STRAFTAT gives you the ability to move however and go wherever you want, and to complement that, let's talk about STRAFTAT's map design. STRAFTAT is an arena shooter, meaning matches take place in smaller, denser maps compared to the wide open landscapes of other FPSs. These cramped, condensed maps, alongside with how fast you're moving, make it near impossible to hide on most maps, forcing you into combat. When I first started playing STRAFTAT, I'll be honest, I kinda played it like a bitch. I hit a lot, crouching around the map, peeking around corners. While on some maps this can be a viable strategy, I quickly learned that doing this all of the time is an easy way to end up as a stain on the wall. STRAFTAT's maps are designed in a way where you are more often than not forced to engage, and embracing that makes matches breeze by. An average round of STRAFTAT is only a minute or two, so a full standard match should be under 10 minutes, and a lot happens in that time. With that in mind, STRAFTAT's map design complements the movement system's sense of verticality. Most maps tend to be multi-layered, having 2 or 3 different levels to navigate and giving you relatively easy access from one to another. A good example of this is arguably my favorite map, HK. HK is a cityscape with convenience stores, roads, and concrete buildings. This map offers 3 different levels of verticality: the streets, the rooftops, and a catwalk that spans the map. This offers a lot of vantage points, giving you more spatial options when approaching any given match. While this seems like it might be more of a tactical gameplay element, the speed at which you can move between the levels makes it nearly impossible for you to be able to fully utilize the vantage point like you would in a normal FPS. I absolutely love this approach to map design since it makes me rethink my perception of the game space. Other FPSs typically don't offer this amount of vertical awareness. Sure, there may be elevated portions of the map, but you'd think about this space the same way you might an empty field with some cover scattered around. That's why a flat 2D map works so well for, again, what I'd refer to as positional shooters, because you can think of the game space as a 2-dimensional plane. With movement shooters, you have to think of the space more as a cube rather than a square. That's why most movement shooters don't give you a map, and STRAFTAT pushes this further as a big portion of the maps are just big concrete boxes. Not every map feeds into this mindset, but enough of them do that you can tell it was a forefront idea when developing STRAFTAT. STRAFTAT's maps are great, and there's a ton of different maps offering a variety of different situations and layouts that keep the game from feeling stale. At the time of writing this, the most recent update brought STRAFTAT's map total to 226, which is more than enough to keep the game feeling fresh every time you boot it up. STRAFTAT's movement and map design mesh perfectly to create a extremely fluid experience, but STRAFTAT tops it off with a standout weapon selection. The game boasts an abundance of weapons catering to many different playstyles. I couldn't find a definitive number, but the STRAFTAT wiki lists 50 weapons, and it's missing some of my favorite weapons, so I'd say there's roughly 60 to 70 weapons in the game. Despite such a vast selection of weapons, STRAFTAT somehow manages to keep most of their catalog balanced. No single weapon feels much stronger than any of the others on the map, making matches feel fair and putting the focus on the skill of the player. A majority of the maps just mirror the items on both sides, so both players are using the same set of choices. While an AK might have better range than a shotgun, letting that shotgun close the gap puts the odds back in their favor, and with the movement you can close it pretty quick. There are some OP weapons in the game, like the blank stare, a one-shot laser rifle, but these weapons are reserved for specific maps where the point of the map is to be chaotic. The blank stare, for example, spawns on Terminal Place 2. Where the entire map is 3 hallways that loop into each other. Both players get a blank stare, and the match is decided by who has the best reaction time when both of you inevitably end up in the same hallway. These maps are meant to be fun and chaotic, so STRAFTAT reserves these overpowered weapons for them. None of the weapons feel like they outclass each other, and this is best demonstrated by my favorite class of weapons, Melee. There are a solid handful of melee weapons in STRAFTAT, ranging from cleavers, swords, a giant morning star, daggers, and the Nise, my beloved, despite not being able to find a real-life counterpart for. You'd assume melee weapons would be at a big disadvantage going up against literally any gun, and you'd be right in most cases, but with how fast you can move around, melee weapons become a very viable playstyle in STRAFTAT. Absolutely nothing can prepare you for when some green freak is sliding towards you with a 7-foot morning star called Oklahoma. STRAFTAT takes its slick movement system and crams it into claustrophobic maps, creating a chaotic and exhilarating gameplay loop that is very, very addictive. The game offers such a large variety of playstyles that it's accessible for anyone to pick up and have fun, but for those who really take the time to understand STRAFTAT, are rewarded with an experience that is quite honestly unmatched by what any big name developers have been doing in recent years. The game is incredibly fun to play, and it's only enhanced by its setting. The visual design and atmosphere of STRAFTAT creates a striking image that I think some players won't even notice. Understandably, it's kinda hard to focus on the world around you when every person you meet wants to kill you as fast as physically possible. But before we dive into the world of STRAFTAT, let's take a quick break for those of you who enjoy this type of content to know how you can support this channel. We'll be right back. The world of STRAFTAT is bleak. The creators of the game stated in a PC Gamer interview that they had a few big inspirations when it comes to their works. The first is Blame, a science fiction manga that is highly held when it comes to its world design. Blame is set in the city, a cosmic megastructure taking up an overwhelming chunk of our solar system. From the panels on screen, you can see that the city is a monstrous and incomprehensible structure composed of monolithic concrete towers, miles of loose cablework, abandoned rotting machinery, and surreal and abstract architecture. The city is such an unearthly and dreamlike concept that it's unsettling to try and wrap your head around it. Another inspiration is the manga Aposims, another science fiction manga by the Blame author that features many similar technologically surreal concepts, from planet-scale megastructures to biomechanical viruses. I'm gonna apologize for butchering this, but Gerard Trignac, a French architect and artist, was another inspiration for the creators. Gerard's work commonly depicts large, imposing stone structures with a desolate atmosphere that I actually really enjoy. Some of his work is on screen, and you can really get this sense of mystic isolation looking over these abandoned, manufactured landscapes. I'm not exactly one for classic art, but Gerard's works are mesmerizing. Knowing their inspirations, it's obvious how these heavily influenced STRAFTAT. The places we visit in STRAFTAT's worlds consist of abandoned cities, sewer systems, concrete structures floating in the heavens, ancient ruins. You get the idea. STRAFTAT is littered with abandoned and dilapidated signs of life. The world is crammed full with brutalist architecture, a style popularized in the 1950s, consisting of minimalist constructions that disregard decorative design in favor of bare building materials and structural elements. On the same note, STRAFTAT's world is empty. We visit towns and alleys where people should be, but it seems that whoever was here at one point is gone. This creates this sense of canopsia, that eerie feeling of being alone in a place where people should be. Think being by yourself in a school or a mall after hours. The brutalist sights of STRAFTAT's world mixed with that feeling of canopsia really gives STRAFTAT this post-dystopian atmosphere. From the ruins we explore, it seems that whatever civilization that was here was a cold and utilitarian one that suddenly just disappeared. The world of STRAFTAT is bleak and kind of hopeless, but the game's soundtrack presents a dichotomy in this world that I find fascinating. I am a big fan of electronic music. Particularly, I love the whole breakcore, jungle, drum and bass umbrella of electronic music, if it wasn't obvious from how much I use it in my videos. These genres of music tend to have a very ethereal and almost dreamlike essence to them that really appeals to me. STRAFTAT embraces these genres as its soundtrack consists mostly of jungle and drum and bass songs. They have this almost heavenly sound to them, akin to many of the spacey and ambient jungle tracks that populated many of the games from the late 90s and early 2000s. Look on YouTube for any jungle playlist or video and there's a high chance it'll have some Dreamcast or N64 character in the thumbnail. As far as I know, STRAFTAT doesn't really have a storyline to follow. I know that the creators made another game before STRAFTAT. Bob D is an atmospheric exploration game that looks pretty good and shares a lot of assets and design elements with STRAFTAT. So that may be the story of STRAFTAT's world, but I haven't played it, so I can't say for certain. If you've played Bob D, let me know in the comments what you thought of it. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Who knows? I might cover it eventually. STRAFTAT blends its bleak and empty world with its dreamy, transcendental soundtrack to create this sensation of being in this otherworldly realm where reality is a lot less concrete than ours. For a game with such a heavy focus on gameplay, I applaud the creators for managing to craft such a distinct world that I fear most people will gloss over. Pairing such peak atmosphere with addictive fun gameplay creates an experience that very few games can match. I do have one complaint about STRAFTAT though. I love this game, as is, and I know that it's integral to STRAFTAT's identity, but I really wish there was more than just the 1v1 mode. I feel like you could make a 4-player free-for-all work, but I understand that something like this could take away from what STRAFTAT is. So if that's off the table, I did come up with an idea on a way to implement more players while keeping the 1v1 nature. I made this diagram to show how a theoretical 4-player tournament mode would work. Each player would play a first to 5 1v1 match with each other player in the tournament. Once all matches are done, the player with the most overall wins would win the tournament. You could customize however many rounds it takes to win a match, but I think 5 is a healthy default to let tournaments play at a relatively similar pace to the normal 1v1 matches while feeling a bit more important, as it would be 15 total rounds. I think this would be a great way to get more players into STRAFTAT while keeping the 1v1 feature intact. Only 1v1s has been a consistent complaint of mine among my friends who've played it, and they agree. People like gaming with the boys, and I think allowing for more than 2 players in some way could widen STRAFTAT's reach. That could just be me though. I just want to play this game with my whole friend group, to be honest. STRAFTAT honestly shocked me when I first played it. There's a few games here and there that I've played where it felt like the game was tailor-made for someone like me in some fucked up evil gaming laboratory, and STRAFTAT strongly checks that box. The tight technical movement seamlessly intertwined with the map design alongside a superb weapon selection makes for a fast-paced and disorienting yet intoxicating gameplay loop. Combine that with the imposing world and the trance-like atmosphere and you get an experience that I can really only describe as a fever dream. I highly recommend STRAFTAT to anyone who's looking for a unique FPS experience that is hard to come across nowadays, or just anyone who wants to finally prove that you would definitely kick your friend's ass in a 1v1. The game is free to play, but there is a $5 DLC that unlocks a bunch of new maps, new weapons, new cosmetics. Don't worry, not everyone needs to buy the DLC, only whoever hosts needs to own it for both players to play around with the DLC stuff. Finally, consumer-friendly infrastructure in my gaming? Who knew you could still do that in current year? I'm not gonna get into the state of the AAA industry. What I will say is that STRAFTAT is a one-of-a-kind experience that I highly encourage you to check out. I'll leave a link at the top of the description that'll take you to the Steam page, and while you're at it, if you end up liking STRAFTAT, buy the DLC. It's worth it, and it supports the creators to make more experiences like STRAFTAT. And if you want to support this creator, consider subscribing to my Patreon so I can afford to keep making videos like these. And if you can't afford the Patreon, that's reasonable. You can still support me by subscribing to the channel and sharing these videos around. This is my first video back after a long hiatus, so YouTube probably assumes I'm dead, and it would help out a ton. If you've made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comments below about any games you think I might enjoy and want to see me cover in a future video. I'm always looking for new and unique games, and I'm curious what you guys might have to show me. That being said, I'm gonna go back to probably getting my teeth kicked in on STRAFTAT. Hope you have a good one, and I will see you in the next one.